Okay, anyways, welcome to Fuck It, we'll do it live. As if we continued this on from last episode. Like, it was just seamless, right?
Right.
Oh, what a beautiful day.
Yeah, how the hell are you?
Doing all right. Weird day, as I was telling you earlier, but as soon as the feds let me know.
What's going on there? Give
Yeah.
me the deets on the
Yeah,
411.
Amen to that, right? So, anyways, today... This episode, rather. I guess it could be today, tonight. No one really knows. The listener that we have doesn't really know.
Yeah, we only have one follower, and that's you.
Yes! That'll change.
Yeah.
Someday it'll be 2.
No, it won't, because I'm not going to do it.
Is that like wearing your own t-shirt at your own gig?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like the equivalent today? It's like, yeah, I guess wearing your own t-shirt at your own gig is like the equivalent of I like all my posts and I like all my pages and things like that.
Right. Similar to fishing for compliments.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But then again, like, there's a, what's the phrase, juxtaposition to that, where it's like, well, at what point do you start, right? Because if you can't convince people that you know to wear your stuff, well, then screw it. I'm going to wear my stuff, and then maybe it'll take.
I did it one time, and the bandmate that kind of, I guess, scolded me about it. He was kind of a douche, and I'm not going to name any names, but
No.
I'm just going to say, and I wore it because we had just gotten them, and I was wearing it just setting up my stuff. I wasn't planning on wearing it at the show. Like, actually, when we were playing, I just wore it while I was setting up my stuff. And I thought that was okay because we were talking, like, I'm setting up the equipment, we're setting up amps, and I'm like, why not advertise? We didn't have a merch guy.
Right.
We're talking like I was like 20, you know what I mean? We were playing at like a bar and grill or something like that. So I was like, oh, I might as well wear it so everyone knows.
If you're not on the road for longer than one night, you don't have a merch guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, it wasn't like a big deal. But I remember he kind of cornered me and was like, that is gaudy, and why are you doing that? I'm like, because I'm not playing right now. It's not like everyone's watching me wear my shirt.
No.
I'm just wearing it because, I don't know, I've seen that before. But I think playing and wearing it might be a little much.
Yeah, that would be the line, right? That'd be a little too far, maybe, but maybe not, right? If I think of it in terms of other artists and take it outside of the perspective or the scope of yourself, it's like, oh, yeah, that's kind of funny.
All right.
Right? Like if, to throw it back to last episode, if Dave Grohl was wearing a Foo Fighters shirt, be like, okay.
Yeah, right. I guess it's circumstantial, right?
Yeah.
But today...
not to cut you off, I do apologize.
No, that's all good.
But it would be an entirely different scenario if, say, like Trent Reznor was wearing a 9 Inch Nails shirt.
Yeah, somebody dark and crazy. or trying to think of something like Rob Zombie was wearing a white zombie shirt.
Yes, that's it. That's the mark. So what are we talking about today, Brad?
Ooh, we are talking about one of my favorites, actually, and I know this is one of your favorites.
Absolutely.
Live in Buffalo by the Goo Goo Dolls. Now, I'm going to let you kind of take the reins on a lot of the research you did about this. Not just this, but the Goo Goo Dolls in general. I love the Goo Goo Dolls. And if anybody saw a picture of Zac and myself, this is a highly unlikely band that you would expect us to like. And we were actually, I think this was the first night that we did our first podcast. We were talking afterwards about we should do one that is kind of outside our realm, right? Or maybe it was after the one we did about the Foo Fighters last time. And we were like, well, I mean, Goo Goo Dolls appears visually to look like it would be outside of our realm, but maybe not entirely outside of our realm. But no, we both really enjoy this band. But Live in Buffalo, their original first live album they put out circa Gutter Flower days, right?
Yeah, it was. So I've got some information in the notes, but then also I did a little bit of a deep dive. My knowledge isn't all expanding, and I am not omnipresent. So
Sure.
But I'm looking it up in real time right now. I want to see what era that was. If memory serves me correctly, they released it. Well, it had to have been after Gutter Flower, but before Let Love In.
Yeah. I was actually wondering that when you put in. So Zach and I put in notes. We're that nerdy about live albums and bands in general, but we put in notes. And when you put that in, like the circa, I guess, so to speak, or when we were kind of talking about that, I was wondering that because that cover song we'll talk about,
yes.
Was it Give a Little Bit? That was, I remember that came out around that time, obviously, because they weren't just playing it out of nowhere.
That was, I think, that got radio play, right? That
Oh
cover?
yeah. That was insane radio play.
Yeah. So that was almost like their single for that, right? Because how often do you hear live songs on just regular radio? I mean,
Right.
it does happen, but
No Leaf Clover. That's about the only one I can
Right.
say I've heard a lot. Or I Want You to Want Me.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually a good one. Love
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's showing that Gutter Flower came out in 2002, and
Okay.
Live in Buffalo came out in 2000,
4?
and I believe it was 2004. It's a ways away.
Or
2004.
was it recorded in 2004? And
I
came out.
didn't go that far. I
Okay.
think it was recorded in 2004.
Sure.
It gives it actually gives the date July 4th, 2004.
That's right. That's right. It was, and on it, he's shouting "Happy 4th of July" at some point.
Correct.
During it. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it was circa post Gutter Flower, before Let Love In, and I had been a really big fan of them for a long time, but that was also because growing up and some of the situational events in terms of where I was and what I was doing, there was always either MTV on
Yeah,
or VH1 on or what have you, right?
Yeah.
When a little bit into the backstory here, during the summers, my sister and I had to go to a babysitter, right? This friend of my mother's had 3 other kids, and then she also watched a bunch of other kids too, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So with my mom and my grandma having to get up at the ass crack of dawn to go to work, we got dropped off at this place at 6 o'clock, I think it was, or before.
Yeah.
And I'd watch cartoons until I fell asleep again.
Sure. Yeah.
And then like all I could remember forever was either MTV or VH1, and I'm not breathing while I'm talking, so I need to take a second. The other really vivid memory in terms of music during those days was also a lot of video game playing.
Sure.
And I had gotten into cassette tapes, and my grandmother had introduced me to an individual known as Weird Al. So that was on spin constantly. But I digress. During those days, that was when Iris was released.
Okay, so we're talking
video.
like the
Like,
mid
I
to
was
late
still-
90s,
yeah.
probably mid 90s. Because yeah, you're talking little kid thinking
98,
babysitting.
98, 99, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking you're being babysat. I'm like, what? Like in middle school.
Yeah, I'm not entirely a child.
Okay.
I should
okay.
preface that a little bit better. But I couldn't go unsupervised, apparently.
That makes sense. Okay.
Rightfully so.
So I was pretty young too around that time. Okay.
So, and, in terms of listening to music, live music or otherwise, there's an effect, right? When you hear a song that you enjoy,
Sure.
and when you hear or see something you like, I'm kind of under the same effect currently. There's a huge dopamine dump,
Yeah. Right.
so it gets captured. It might not be the same again. It'll start to wean off a little bit, but anyhow, not to get too far into that. So, Live in Buffalo was their first album, or
Sure.
first live
live album. Yeah.
I got into them around that time when the album name was Dizzy Up the Girl.
Oh
right?
yeah, that's the classic.
Yep.
That slide and
Slide,
Broadway.
Black Balloon,
Yep.
Broadway, had all the...
You think about that, and I think you had jotted this down too when or you had just brought it up. We were talking like, they had like #1 pop songs, or they had a lot of #1s
Yes.
throughout the '90s and whatnot, right?
So, in doing some of this research, I found that Iris was the #1 pop song on Billboard from the span of 1992 to 2012.
Holy cow,
It was picked as the #1 pop song from that time period.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that album though, Dizzy Up the Girl. That's a lot of hits. I
Yeah.
mean, you really think about that, like in relation to like now, present day being at the time of this recording, it's 2022, early 2022. I mean, albums are already kind of on their way out. Yeah, not really, but kind of, right? And they've been kind of on their way out. That's a ton of freaking hits.
Yes.
On one single album. That's a lot.
So in some of this research, I found that they were actually, in the beginning, like I think it was the late 80s. They were signed to Metal Blade Records.
I think I know where this is going.
They were signed to Metal Blade Records, and the first either 2 or 3 albums were cover albums.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I couldn't identify. I didn't do the research, but I couldn't identify who was doing the vocals on there. But I do know on a few of the songs, John Resnick did sing.
Okay.
I could tell that much.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe I'm just off my fucking rocker. So, I've got a note here on the way bottom. If you know where this is going.
Oh, so, I know that's where I was figuring it was going. This fun little nugget.
They had all sorts of different. They had cover albums. It was really wild. It was these album songs, or not album songs, these cover songs. Mm-hmm. They, I've got to pull it up because for some reason I didn't write what songs, but like they had a CCR song.
Okay, of all the covers you were talking about. Yeah.
They had a CCR song.
And while you do that, I'm going to pull up the wiki for Live in Buffalo because there's a couple things I've actually I love this album, but I've never known about it. So let me check it out. But yeah, when you find that.
So there's the album Jed from 1989.
Holy cow.
Yeah, 1989, Jed. There is, there's songs on here that the names I'm not familiar with, but apparently they're cover songs.
They're all cover songs, right?
Yeah, but towards the end, they've got "Give Me Shelter."
Oh, it's a classic.
So I listened to that. I was like, okay, yeah, this is the Stones, right? This is what they're doing, and so I assume the rest of these albums are also cover songs.
You know who else does a cover of that real quick? Puddle of Mud.
Really?
They have a cover album, and that song's on it. I don't really have an opinion, but just so you know, that exists.
Yeah. And so on this very first album, I thought it was very funny, looking at all these names, and there's a song named "Sex Maggot."
Yes.
So in the notes, I was like, why don't they play "Sex Maggot" anymore?
You know that I'm pretty sure they originally were called that. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
They were. Okay, hold on. I gotta Google. I gotta Google it because it was something. My sister knew that. My sister's a huge fan of them because she's very nostalgic for the '90s. The era we're talking about that we grew up in because we were little kids, just like you said. For our listener, we were little kids. So don't choke, don't choke. Otherwise, I'll call your babysitter and make her do the Heimlich on.
Might be the second person. Never mind.
Oh no. No, don't do that. Bad juju.
Yeah.
No, my sister's a big fan, and she actually told me that I'm fairly certain, and I got their wiki up right now, but let's see, Origins.
Oh, so Jed was their second album. While you dig into that, Jed was their second album, and the first album was named after themselves, the Goo Goo Dolls. We're
talking once they were the Goo Goo Dolls, though, right?
No, this was during that time. So this album I'm looking at right now is 1987.
Yeah.
It precedes that Jed cover album.
Yeah.
And this is also, I believe, this album has "Don't Fear the Reaper."
Holy cow.
Yeah. And a number of other songs that I'm just unfamiliar with. But it says here, they've got a nice paragraph here. Debut studio album by American rock band The Goo Goo Dolls, released June 9th, 1987 by Mercenary and Celluloid Records.
Okay.
All the songs were sung by bassist Robbie, who was originally the band's lead vocalist. That makes sense to me. The album was recorded from late 1986 and early 1987 on a $750 budget at Trackmaster Audio in the band's hometown of Buffalo, New York. Later on, the band admitted in their 1999 VH1 Behind the Music special that the album was recorded under the influence of alcohol and drugs. Resnick stated, "We had a lot of beer, a lot of truck stop speed, and a lot of pot."
Oh, my Lord.
I remember a lot of it.
So, I found the info finally that I was looking for. That song, Sex Maggot?
Yes.
This is what I mean. My sister found out that they were called the Sex Maggots before they became the Goo Goo Dolls. Around that time,
sure.
And I don't know what forced the change because even for the listener, before obviously this whole episode is gonna be about their live album, but just a little background about the Goo Goo Dolls. If you, for any reason, anybody listening to this that's younger, where they were absolutely not born in the 90s and parents didn't listen to them or anything like that, the Goo Goo Dolls are your top 40 ish kind of music, especially with John Resnick singing. So that's a big swing from being the Sex Maggots to being Goo Goo Dolls and how they sound, right?
Yeah.
Which confuses me a little bit. I'll have to dig a little deeper into why the name changed. I mean, I have an article here, and maybe in between our jam sessions, I'll quick look it up, but or I'll read it. Or rather, it's kind of long, but I'm curious why they changed. Other than the obvious of the tone of voice and the tone of music that they play and the mainstream success they found,
Right.
from A Boy Named Goo on, you know what I mean? Like into, obviously Live in Buffalo and all these performances they do, which is kind of what I would call acoustic rock. Would you call that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say acoustic rock. You can call it top 40, but I don't know what top 40 means nowadays. But acoustic rock is what I would say. That's a big swing to go from the Sex Maggots and presumably a punk band.
Yeah, they were very fast at that time. So,
like you were saying,
the
gas station speed at Quick Trip or whatever.
No, truck stop speed.
Truck stop speed. That's it.
Yeah, and so they released that first album. The second album was released on Metal Blade. That album, Jed. Right, those were all still cover songs too.
Sure. Yeah. Interesting. That's I didn't know about the albums. I knew that's the thing too. I'm thinking in a vacuum. I'm thinking like, oh, they were called the Sex Maggots, and then they just decided to be the Goo Goo Dolls, and
they sounded the same.
Yeah,
and
like
that's what they were.
Just needed a brand name change, to be marketable, and here we are. Because the '90s were a totally different. You had grunge, but then you had post grunge, which is kind of. I've heard a lot of things get filed under post grunge, from heavier stuff like Puddle of Mud to. Oh no! Like, what would you classify Gin Blossoms as? Like in the live album they have, and Tonic, and things like that. I've heard people, in my opinion, remember everybody's got one like an asshole. Take that opinion with a grain of salt. In my opinion, I've heard a lot of people kind of say that, where I've started filing under saying that like Tonic is post grunge, like that like soft '90s rock being post grunge, just because grunge was early '90s. But I'm like, grunge was a lot of the 90s. It wasn't just, like, because, Kurt Cobain died in 96, 97. So we're talking, like, the latter half of the 90s. I thought it was
94.
Oh, you think it was earlier? Maybe. I mean, you're probably right. I don't follow that level of stuff. But, like, grunge, like Pearl Jam, we'll say, like, they kept going into the, they kind of became the mainstream one, right? So.
April 5th, 1994.
Okay, so earlier 90s. All right. But I think of it as like, the Goo Goo Dolls and bands like them, Tonic, Gin Blossoms, Third Eye Blind. Like, I don't know Matchbox 20. I don't know how to classify that a lot of times. And I've heard people say post-grunge, and I've, in my own opinion, started filing it under that. Like, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's probably post-grunge. But then I've heard a lot of the, like, Puddle of Muds and things like that like actual heavy but not total grunge rock, but a little more produced grunge rock, we'll say. Tantric and bands like that.
What are words anyway?
Yeah. At some point, I'm like, I don't fucking know.
I heard we are getting way off.
That's okay.
The beaten path, but I do have to mention this. Our good boy that we like to watch on YouTube, FM, we'll call him.
Okay.
He was referencing the band Chunk, No Captain Chunk. Are you familiar with them?
Yes. Yeah.
Apparently, that genre is called easycore, right? You've got hardcore, but then you've got easycore.
What?
I got it. I almost died. It was hilarious.
I'll have to check this out later.
Yeah.
So Goo Goo Dolls, lots of success in the '90s and plenty in the early 2000s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like they were even bigger. I would argue, wouldn't you say?
So
probably around then.
About the time Gutter Flower came out, I was already a fan. Because I wasn't seeking, and this is just obviously from a personal perspective, but I was just exposed to those songs. I enjoyed those songs, so eventually I bought the album when I could, and then from there, when they released Gutter Flower and Here Is Gone, and those songs, like it really kind of sunk in, and it kind of remains true to the things I've noticed about bands when I start to pick up on them, where the first album is really good, but it's that second one that even still might not be like
all the way there,
just hooks me. Right?
Sure.
It just gets me.
Yeah, and I, kind of like we talked on our pilot episode, live albums were a big deal to me when I was pretty young, still 12 years old or 13 years old, definitely 12 years old. But That was Zach's robot voice coming in.
My robot voice.
Zach robot fart. It's like you rip one as a robot, and that's what it sounds like. And you're like, oh, sweat's coolant. But I liked live albums, but Goo Goo Dolls were always kind of a constant in my life because I had a ton of cousins who were they're all at the minimum 9 to 10 years younger or older than me. And so in the 90s, they were leaving high school, going into college. This was like Goo Goo Dolls' actual upswing heyday with Slide and Name, and like you were saying. Yeah. And so we were around our cousins a lot. I grew up near them, and so we all hung out a lot. And they introduced me to a lot of random music that they would never really emphasize the band. It was just, they'd have songs on. And then to boot, my dad, also being really into music himself, he had the radio on all the time. He would point out the artists he knew, but he would have it on anyways. And yeah, you got your local like top 40s radio stations in Wisconsin, and you'd hear Name is always the one that was like sticking out to me.
That one always got circulation.
My cousins always got into Slide and Dizzy and songs like that, right?
Yep.
But I didn't know, honestly, for, believe it or not, many years until I was a full-grown adult in my 20s that they even had a live album. It wasn't until I started actually hunting for more as my collection grew that I discovered they had this one, and that it was a full-length album. But even more so, because I pulled up the wiki here with a little bit, I know this just from seeing stuff on YouTube, but it's also a DVD. Just like we were kind of talking about Skin and Bones last time. This is a CD, DVD, double disking, as we have said since day one. Man, I got to watch that whole thing. But I got a question for you about that. When an album comes with a live DVD, and you're so used to just listening to the live album, does watching the DVD kind of like obliterate the picture in your head that you had of that concert? And especially given like them talking to the crowd or singing certain songs, do you then see the concert and you're like, oh, I had it in my head that it looked totally different, or it was a totally different environment or totally different venue or something like that?
I've never thought of that. I think I don't get a visualization of where or the how or any of those factors, right? Mm-hmm. I know it plays a part in it for that end of the media, right?
Sure, yeah.
And this kind of gets into a little bit more of the say like the hippie side of things, where
or ethereal side
of things, where the venue has an effect on the people playing there, and they're going to play this way because they feel a certain way.
Sure.
I at work yesterday, I actually got to bring I had all my gear with me. I got to bring my guitar in. I was asked about that new guitar I bought. And so I got to play it a little bit, and I started getting asked a few questions like, oh, like, is that a release for you, like playing music? And
sure, yeah.
And it was really fucking awesome.
Nice.
Day. But, and as I was talking, I was also kind of thinking and saying at the same time, to play something, right? It goes from brain to fingertip, like you've got to feel like you're playing it, right? You're moving your wrist, but you got to feel it.
Yeah, you're connected to the song.
It has nothing to do with what you see there,
right?
Yeah.
But
a lot to do with what you feel and how it comes out and the effect the, I guess, environment has. Now there could be some visual stimulation stuff going on for the people playing there,
sure,
which could have an effect. But in terms of my consumption of the audio itself, I can't say that I've ever really visualized that before.
Sure.
Going back to our pilot episode talking about S&M, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That was also a DVD.
Yeah.
Right? And I listened to it, and then after watching the DVD, I really didn't expect it to be any different. And then maybe that's also
like
because
the image in your mind's eye.
Yeah. But I don't think that's a thought that ever really occurs to me.
Sure. Interesting. Yeah, it was not until I started really kicking in the collecting, which would have been like late high school, early college of live albums, that I started realizing that I thought that way about live albums.
Sure.
Like our pilot episode again with Blink-182, Mark, Tom, and Travis show. That's something I straight up don't. I've been listening to it for over 20 years, or about 20 years now, and I straight up don't want to see any recordings from it or any visuals from it, like actually, because I have it in my head, all the connections I had as a teenager and as a kid, listening to it, being so obsessed with live albums in that regard that I was worried that if I watch it now, I'm going to have that picture in my head instead of
what you envisioned.
And you don't get that from studio albums because they're studio produced.
Studio,
yeah,
right.
you know they're in a studio, no matter what the studio looks like. That doesn't. I mean, maybe other people listening, maybe one listener or two out there disagrees, and they probably think, oh, they picture somebody recording this in a basement, or like Dave Grohl going to Foo Fighters again, recorded certain things in his garage. But when it comes to a live album, it's like you said, there's a venue, there's the crowd, there's how the crowd looks and what have you.
Right.
But for this one, I actually looked up, knowing there was a DVD, I looked up on YouTube. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I did look up at least some of the songs I like on it. And it didn't do anything in my head in terms of, because I had listened to it so many times before, but maybe it was because it wasn't in my youth, like when I was a little kid, listening to like S&M,
yes.
Mark Tom and
Yes.
Travis show, all that stuff, that it didn't affect me the same way. Because I was worried. I thought about that when I was looking that up, but it did not bother me at all whatsoever when I saw it finally. So, but it does have a DVD, but it being a live DVD and having this something we will talk about excessively throughout this episode, it fucking poured.
Yeah, it did.
During the recording of their album. And I kind of knew that from listening to it so much, obviously, because
Right.
he says, hey, you guys made it through the rain, and we're going to keep playing until this shit stops. I think he said a couple times.
Towards the end there.
Yeah, and I think even Robbie said during January Friend, he's like, screw this rain.
Yeah,
more like,
addressed it a
screw
few
this
times.
rain.
They addressed it a few times. I really, really think that event as itself, it played heavily into the end result that this album became.
Yeah.
Now, I say that because while we decided that we were going to review this album, I also listened to the other live stuff that they had put out.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't have the same charm that this album has, right? Whether it's the rain, again, the environment, the crowd, whatever it is, there's just so much there. And the newer live albums are well produced. You can hear everything clearly, but it just doesn't have the same snap as this album.
Do you think it has to do with age, too? Like, they're in their 50s now. Robbie's got to be in his upper 50s. Johnny's probably mid-50s.
Mid to upper, sure.
I think they're maybe not that big of a difference. I think they're about the same age difference as you and I, perhaps. The last I saw their ages when I was curious. Because they came to town last fall, when we were watching Slipknot elsewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
But I was curious about that. I'm like, wonder how old they are, because I was trying to peg how old they would have been when Live in Buffalo came out, and they would have been mid-30s probably. So I believe they're in their mid-50s or starting to creep up on mid to late 50s. And so, do you think that has something to do with that zip you're looking for? And
I think it can. I don't think it is a direct result of that, though.
Sure. Yeah, so, and I kind of looked into this a little bit too. They recorded it, obviously we know they're from Buffalo, and they recorded it in Buffalo on July 4th, so the 4th of July weekend, 4th of July itself. That's a bummer fireworks show. I don't know if they had fireworks that night, but damn well know that they probably didn't after all the rain.
So it's showing Resnick was born in 65.
Holy cow. He's
Robbie's 1 year older than he is.
Okay, so they're in their mid-50s at least, because my folks were born in 59 and 60. So they're 5 years younger than my folks, 4 or 5 years younger than my folks. Wow.
Yep.
I mean, it's weird when you think about that out loud.
Yeah, so I think it can contribute. I think there's a lot to do. So when we talk a lot about, say longevity. It's funny that this is coming up today because my phone likes to send me all sorts of like news spam and clickbait that I don't give a shit about.
Yeah.
One of them being, or at least things I don't have much interest in. One of them being how Bon Jovi recently struggled to sing something.
Yeah, I've been seeing that. I've been seeing that a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked into it, but that's kind of an interesting thing too. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of there's got to be a lot of thought and planning behind the intent, right? So you can be a band like, if you train your voice, you can do whatever you want for, and train it correctly, you'll be able to do even more aggressive things for longer.
Oh,
right?
sure. Yeah.
Right. I think over time, depending on the situation and the circumstance, over time, it's just going to get, for lack of better terms, boring, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see, Enter Sandman. Everybody wants to see Raining Blood. Everybody wants to see, right? Everybody wants to see Iris.
Yep.
Right? Or Name.
Yep.
Except for me. And everybody,
I can't wait to dig in the songs on this one because I don't think we're going to hit it off.
But there's staples, right, that people want to see.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm a big fan of the band, there's a good chance that I'm looking for the deep cuts.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And getting into that, what was your favorite song on the album?
Overall, I had a lot, and I'll talk about that when I dig a little deeper into all of the songs. But my favorite one on the album, honestly, is Dizzy, probably. And that's not my favorite Goo Goo Dolls song, but how they played it and the kind of like aggression, I will say, for being, there's something real interesting about the Goo Goo Dolls, and I'll dive more into this in a bit or after a couple jams, but there's something aggressive about the Goo Goo Dolls that is only captured live. And like I said, I'll explore that a little later because there's a lot of Brad babbling that I'm going to go down about that, and strictly to do with the Goo Goo Dolls specifically, but that concept. But I love Dizzy. But what about yours?
My favorite,
out of all
of the songs.
This is for all of you.
So I think I want to say Broadway.
Oh, sure.
I want to say Broadway. So
is that your favorite of theirs?
Favorite
song
actually,
of theirs? Yeah, no, I know what your favorite is.
That is not my favorite song of theirs, but I think on this album they did such a good job with everything, and I've gotten the chance to see them live once. I want to say mid-2000s. It was around Let Love In, right? And so for me, that was a really exciting time to have seen them. And one of the things I really enjoyed about this live album, and they did replicate it live when I saw them, was the saxophone player.
Oh, yes.
That fucking saxophone player, man.
Fucking saxophone player, man. Holy shit.
Like, that came out of left field for me. Like, and the saxophone player, I didn't write it down, but it's on Broadway, and it's on one or two other tracks, too.
Yeah.
Right?
The only one I remember is Broadway. What's the other one that he does it on? You're right. There's more, but Broadway is the most distinct because he lets him have a solo, like legit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to think about that. Maybe when we're digging into all the individual songs, but yeah, fucking sax.
Yeah, the sax and I guess I'm just gonna sit here and keep saying the sax, man.
I've got quite the sax.
Yeah, I've got a note in here. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm like, let's talk about fucking horns in music.
Oh, we can. We can.
Yeah.
We'll close off that because I think that we'll close off maybe this part of today's podcast or this episode with that. But yeah, so Broadway is your favorite on that album, but not. How does it compare to the original one to you though? Like the original
songs
recording
on the live album?
No, just Broadway. Just like I know it's not your favorite, but compare. Do you like it on this one better than you liked the original, the studio recording?
Yes.
Let's say.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So there's a lot I have
energy.
to talk about that.
It's got energy. It's that saxophone player really just lays into it. It's fantastic.
Fucking rips.
Just riffs for days, right?
If your saxophone player looks like this, you're about to die in that pit.
Yes. I love it. Oh, that meme was so funny.
So the recording though of this performance was 4th of July, but kind of going back to that, I never actually knew where it was recorded. I'm picturing, you get Robbie going, oh, it's so good to be back in the city, and we used to be in the suburbs and blah blah. I'm still picturing because I'm picturing New York State, like Buffalo. Like I've been to Niagara Falls. I was not on the Buffalo side. I was on the Canadian side, but I'm picturing it to be rural. Right, I've never been to Buffalo, so again, much like everybody's opinion is an asshole, I've never been to Buffalo. I don't actually know that it's rural or not, but I was picturing it being kind of in like not in a city, not like
Sure,
not
sure.
not in
Kind
the
of like
city
the
like he
outskirts.
claims he is. Yeah,
Right.
picturing like the outskirts of a city. But no, it's actually what I found. A little digging was it was Niagara Square in front of the Buffalo City Hall.
No shit.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Well, if they were founded in Buffalo, it makes sense.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But the actual location of where this was recorded, I don't know
City
why.
Hall of
Again,
Buffalo.
that goes back to that mind's eye thing. I'm like, if I see the video, I'm sure I'll be able to see the city hall and all that stuff. But in my head, I'm picturing it in the middle of fucking nowhere, even though it's still the city, like
In the
Robbie
city,
says.
like he states. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's like a mind's eye thing, I guess. But yeah, I had no idea where. I just knew, Buffalo, and that all makes sense. I will say this. Love the album art, the album cover.
Yes, I was just going to ask about that. So go ahead.
Brilliant. That's all I have to say. Go ahead.
It plays a lot into packaging and, for lack of better terms, I don't want to say marketing, but also marketing, right?
Yeah,
because
marketing,
the
definitely.
rain in the album.
In the album.
In the album. You can hear that there's rain, and it had an effect on how they performed, and overall a great effect, right? Because in my opinion, they have not replicated the energy and everything that transpired that day, and I think the rain had played a heavy hand in how that pans out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I as a guy who owns a multimedia business, I know how graphic design comes together. I know how a lot of the stuff I work on comes together, but graphic design especially, there's always a system when it comes to logo design or book cover art I've done for people and things like that, right? And I have done album art for local acts and, regional acts, nothing big, right? But looking at it, it's almost like, and I hope, this is probably not real, but I hope to God it is for some reason. It almost looks like they had the vector graphic of the Goo Goo Dolls logo. They used the font to make Live in Buffalo and the date and all that stuff. And I feel like their graphic artist, their marketing team, had that set up on the template. And they're like, I don't know what to put behind this, though. And then it fucking downpoured the whole entire night while they were playing. And he probably snapped a picture, what looks like out the tour bus window, and put that behind it.
Right.
I hope that's what happened. I don't think it is. I really don't. But I hope that's what it is. Because I think it's brilliant. I think it's this real impactful image. As just looking at it from a photography standpoint too. But
Don't mind my chair.
no, it's fine. No one cares. You farted like a robot already.
Yeah, I've already destroyed the audio.
No. But this is the one interesting thing too. Before we start heading towards the maybe musical guest portion of this, and I know we fuck it and do it. We fuck it and do it live, but I'm still on the fence of what I'm going to play today. But we'll see. But I noticed this. I know you'll appreciate this. I don't know if you saw this on the wiki for the album, but it says right after it says where it was recorded. It says, as for the concert itself, the performance was enigmatic, which garnering comparisons to the Talking Heads Stop Making Sense from members of the band's crew.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know you're a fan of the Talking Heads.
Yes, absolutely. One of my top 5 for sure.
Over 60,000 fans attended the performance, braving the torrential downpour. And the rain cleared in time for the Goo Goo Dolls to start the show, but during their performance of January Friend, the rain began pouring down again, harder than before. So it was like on a mission to stop them.
Yes.
And that kind of plays into that aggression, I would say. Like there was something
They're
about
like
them.
Lieutenant
They're like
Dan on top of the ship. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Come get me.
It was basically that. That's the vibe I got from John Resnick even. And he's seems to be a pretty mild-mannered guy compared to Robbie. Robbie's like
He has to be.
the
He wrote
yang
songs
to
for
his
Disney.
yin. What's that?
I said he has to be. He wrote songs for Disney.
That's true. And they wrote a fucking Christmas album the last couple of years.
That's right.
And I couldn't, like, when they were marketing it on Instagram, I couldn't take it seriously. I love the band, but that was just, I didn't listen to it. I probably won't. The Christmas album by the Goo Goo Dolls,
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm gonna hard pass on that. But yeah, even he was kind of aggressive about like we're gonna keep playing until this shit stops and whatever. So I think you're right. The rain had that kind of effect on it. I'm glad you say that because that was what I was thinking. But yeah, very interesting. I'm kind of excited to dive into some of these songs because I listened to this extensively for many, many years and also leading up to this episode. I don't know. How many times did you listen to it?
I listened to it quite a few times, but then I also did a decent amount of diving into the other live albums as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
In comparison, right?
Yeah,
and
the EPs or whatever they got out there. Yeah.
Just from my personal perspective, it just doesn't have the same charm. Even one of my favorite songs, which is "Long Way Down."
Oh yeah, you did mention some. When you take your time at diagnosing this whole thing, we'll dig into that because you did mention that's not on. Live in
it's
Buffalo,
not on this album.
Yeah,
right? And they open one of their other live albums with it, and it's still a great song. But in comparison, like you asked before, say Broadway between the recorded version and the live version, I would, again, live version is cool. I would take the recorded version of Long Way Down over that performance.
Gotcha. Yeah, over the one you heard.
Over the one I heard, yes.
So before we wrap this section up and go into first of two jams for us as our musical guest, Zac Bradley, what did we decide? We didn't decide on anything, but what did we decide on?
We decided on Jack and Shit and Jack Left Town.
That is a good one. I feel like that's like an emo album title, but everything is, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
You could take any sentence in the world and make it the title of an emo song from the early to mid 2000s. But before we dive into that, I got
that phrase from a Marvel character in a movie that I'm just gonna not name for the sake of other people.
Copyright
infringement and all that other horse shit we don't.
Just in case this eventually makes us money, I don't want to give that money right back to Marvel. But no, before we dive into the song, let's dive into the jamming, the individual songs, all that good stuff. Horns. I do want to close this part.
Okay.
I want to bring it on. Give me your horns. No, I'm sorry. I just pictured like a pissed off music teacher.
Just stealing horns. Give me your horns.
Hey, if you're going to fuck around with them.
Oh man.
Horns are for playing, not for fucking around. Anyways.
Get that trumpet out of your ass.
I was waiting for something like that to go. Okay, who wrote tromboner on the...
Jesus.
All right, anyways, horns.
We're all adults here.
What did you want to say about horns? Probably something really serious, and I just fucking ruined it for you.
Right. Oh,
I'll look away.
All the horns. Yeah, I can't look at you right now. All the horns, man. So one of my other favorite bands released a new album, right? And there's a couple of tracks on that album that have horns. And while we were reviewing this one with the saxophone in a couple of songs and how that rips, it's like, man, there's a certain element even in heavier music that it provides, and I can't not love it right now.
Nice.
Right? So what was it was the song, it was Papa Roach's Unglued.
Oh yeah. Well, they used horns on a couple of their new songs on their new album. But I know you mentioned Swerve. I know I'm sure everybody that likes Papa Roach has heard that
Swerve,
one for a while.
Swerve was like the number one. I really enjoyed. Again, not to dive so far down this rabbit hole.
That's no big deal.
I do like that they released that as the first single.
Yeah,
and it really, if they hadn't done that, if they would have, hypothetically, in my opinion, if you think about it this way, if they were to have released, say, like Bloodline, which is more in line of what you would think they would release,
right,
versus Swerve, like it would generate this whole alter perception of what the album should be. But I think having released Swerve first with the horns and the guests on it, including the vocalist for Fever 333.
That's right.
Formerly of Let Live. He does a great fucking job.
Hell yeah.
And another artist as well, whose name escapes me. I think it's like Sueco or something.
Okay, sure. I only gave that a couple spins so far, so I got to listen. I loved it from start to finish. I loved that whole
Absolutely. Album. And it really grabbed hold. And the last time I was probably excited about horns and music like this, or like one of my other favorite songs that has that much brass in it, is Brass Monkey by the Beastie Boys.
Holy cow, that's an ancient one.
I mean,
too.
I do enjoy, like, say, ska music, but that's an entirely different
ball game
when it comes to that.
And I'm sure we have a handful of ska live albums we're going to talk about. Namely, I've referenced this already, Real Big Fish. that was a long one, actually.
I've never heard it.
Yeah, you're going to like it. If you like ska, you're probably going to like it at least a little bit. I know they're kind of tongue in cheek, but anyways, yeah, Swerve, a lot of that Papa Roach album. Side note before to kind of conclude this part, you know that Papa Roach, when they were in first forming, they had a horn player in the band.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that was, and I thought it was like a throwback to that, but no, you're the difference though between something like that where it's more funky and then what Goo Goo Dolls did on this Live in Buffalo album. It's like smooth. It's like smooth. Jazz. Yeah, it's smooth ass shit, and I think. The only one I can still think of, like I said, we'll have to explore it on the break time here, but like Broadway is the one I'm thinking of.
Yes.
But I gotta think of the other one that they used a horn. Was it Give a Little Bit? Was it the cover song?
No.
There's no solo or horn solo in that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to like look back in because there was another song. You're right. But Broadway was the one that stands out.
It might have been.
Might have been just Broadway?
Might have been, it might have been Broadway. It might have been Give a Little Bit.
Yeah, because that's all at the end. So, yeah.
It's the last song on the album, and I don't remember which song it's on, but Resnick calls him out and he's like, "Yeah, get on out here."
Okay, yeah, you're right. So it's mostly consolidated to the end of Live in Buffalo. So, but yeah, I think I agree with you, man. I think it adds such a cool touch. I think it's underutilized, and maybe it's in my head. You know, I was talking about during the pilot episode, my first instrument was a saxophone, and I've always been filled with wonder about instruments, whether I can play them or not. Drums is the only thing I really, I'm fluent in, right? I don't know how to play bass, guitar, anything like that. But I think horns, they bring such an interesting touch to anything. If you find a way to tastefully do it, I think it's cool. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And to jump back to what you had stated, I think that probably was a throwback to add the horns to the new Papa Roach stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Thinking about it, because before my first listen to it, right, was my first what do I want to say here?
Impression?
Yes, my first impression of this album was, holy shit, they finally figured it out, right? Because they've been and their sound might change again, which is fine, right?
Yeah.
And they've already gone on and stated that that's what they're going to do. And in my mind, it feels like they finally figured out who they were.
Oh, interesting.
Right, to go back to originally having a horn player.
Yeah.
And then to come back and, like, this is the music they're making now. This, to me, says, like, this is who they are. And this is...
right.
I would not be upset if they kept the same tone
going forward.
Yeah. Right?
Yet the Goo Goo Dolls album, the way I look at that horn, it's for Live in Buffalo again, is like it's an add-in. It's like they didn't ever do anything like that. And not that I remember from the original recording of Broadway or anything.
Nope.
But that was definitely an addition, right? It was like, oh, let's throw this in for the solo, or let's throw that in for the solo. It was kind of interesting that they brought that in out of absolute sheer nowhere. But when you brought that up, I just had to touch on that for this part because I'm like, mad respect. I think that was a fucking awesome touch that they did that on Broadway. And
you don't see that. You don't see that very often.
No, not at all. Unless it's like classic rock bands, kinda. Like the bigger ones that have a lot more members, like Chicago and things like that. Even I'm sure Moody Blues have used horns here and there.
Sure.
But like 90s and beyond. I mean, we're talking like grunge, post-grunge, all that vernacular we used earlier. Easy core. All right. So we're going to play you some music. We're going to probably pull one straight. We're going to pull one straight out
of the trumpet,
out of our trumpet holders. All right. So give me your horns. If you're going to treat them like literal shit, I can keep going. That means I'm going to fuck this song up. But let's play you guys some music, and then what we're gonna do is
I imagine some like crotchety old man like, this is why we can't have nice things.
This is why the music department is underfunded. If the superintendent walked in and saw that trumpet up your ass, he's gonna shit.
Oh, that's what he'd do.
Oh, no. What are some other horns? I mean, you think trumpet, trombone, saxophone, right?
Tuba.
I mean, tuba.
You've got tuba. You've got.
You gotta be a special kind of person that can fit a whole tuba up your ass. Horns up your ass.
Isn't that a Metallica album?
No, but that was also Dave Mustaine screaming that out on some interview in the 80s of him with Metallica still.
Right.
But all right, so we're gonna hopefully play some music. I could change the settings on my drums with something that does have horns on it, actually. But yeah, I don't know what we're gonna play, so fuck it, let's do it live.
Yes. And welcome back to Fuck It, We'll Do It Live.
Indeed, welcome back. I'm sad our jam did not have any horns in it, I will say. I will let the horns go for right now. Just let them go.
Your effect was a little too campy for you?
I was really hoping that I should. Oh, maybe song number 2 today. We will, or on this episode, we will whip out that horn effect and see what we can do. Like a hip-hoppy horn rock. Okay, I'm drunk. All right.
Hip-hop Anonymous?
So here's the fun part where we dive a lot deeper into Live in Buffalo by Goo Goo Dolls, starting with Zac's takes on a lot of these tracks. So dig a little deeper into them. Tell me about them.
All right, yeah. So like I said, that we have a history with this album and the material on it, right?
Yeah.
And my favorite part of the whole thing, my favorite part of the entire album, it's got to be that horn section.
Really?
That sax solo in Broadway.
Oh,
either that or this album has a really good energy, a very positive energy, a very
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
I was just gonna say, if you reference our notes, it's got very heavy.
You actually wrote that down.
I actually wrote embodies the full "fuck it, we'll do it live" factor.
Wow, I did not see that note. I didn't scroll down that far.
It really does, right? Because they ended up hitting a roadblock and they found a way past it, and you can tell through the entire performance. You said there's a DVD. I've never seen it.
Yeah, you can Google or look up on YouTube
Google
you can Google, but you can YouTube just about any of the songs from it, and you'll see at least some of the actual like Iris is a big one.
Yeah.
I'll talk about my favorite after our next song, but a lot of them are up on YouTube. I don't know if the whole entire DVD is, but you get the gist. Big Machine is up there. It's not raining yet.
Yeah,
at that
that's
point.
a good one.
Yeah,
Big Machine. I like. So, diving into this, it came out after Gutter Flower. It preceded Let Love In.
Yeah.
So they started with the recorded version of their cover of Give a Little Bit, right?
Yeah,
so
that was the studio one.
That was the studio recording, which was essentially like their marketing campaign for this live album.
Right. Yeah.
Because this was during the early 2000s. So there wasn't a whole lot of, hey, check us out on YouTube, go to your Spotify or what have you.
Not at all.
Right?
Yeah.
So they opened with Big Machine from Gutter Flower, which I really enjoyed. And again, 2004, I was still following them pretty heavily and had Gutter Flower pretty ingrained by that point in time.
Sure.
I think it started out great and maintained that energy all throughout, again, between the embodiment of the performance through the environment that they were in and everything.
Yeah, right.
So Big Machine I was familiar with. Naked I've heard. It's one of their older songs. It's a good song.
Right, yeah.
Right? But the notable mentions, the ones that really got me were the ones from Dizzy Up the Girl and Gutter Flower.
Sure.
And there wasn't anything from much preceding that other than Naked. I think Acoustic number 3 may have been, right?
Yeah, right.
Unless that was on Gutter Flower.
I'll look that up while you're looking.
All right.
Let's have a look-see.
So we've got Big Machine, there's Naked, there's Slide. Slide was good.
Ooh,
Think
yeah.
About Me, that's always a good track. And there's something about these songs, right? Because like you said, Dizzy Up the Girl had so many notable hits on it that during that era, in terms of music, not just top 40, but a lot of the mainstream stuff was like still Matchbox 20.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least I think.
Same genre.
Similar genre,
Yeah,
right? So this was peak for them, I would argue.
Oh, yeah.
So there's Think About Me, and then we get to Smash.
Oh, God. All right, folks, just so you know, this is going to be a deep dig. So tell me a little bit about Smash and or Tucked Away. And or January friend.
So, unpopular opinion, right? When Robbie sings, my brain starts to ooze out of my ears. I can't do it. I can't do it. I have listened to the songs, and there is just this rasp in his voice that
Smash.
there's just this rasp in his voice that, like, I'm next right now.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. That surprises me.
There's no mood that I can be in that. Oh yeah, no, this is good. I can handle it right now. There's no. And, it's just not for me, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not trying to shit on it. I'm sure plenty of people enjoy it. I am not one of those people.
Oh man, dude.
So again, listen to them on the live in Buffalo.
Sure.
Right. Gave it a listen.
Sure.
Generally, unless I'm completely zoned out, those songs don't make it all the way through.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. I was genuinely surprised when I heard that. Actually, not to say that you really enjoy singing and music that sounds like Robbie otherwise, but I'm just genuinely shocked that you would skip over any of them, honestly, because you're not much of a skip a song kind of guy.
I'm really not.
Yeah, so knowing that, I obviously listened to it before. It's not like you've never listened to it at all, but I'm just shocked that afterwards that you do skip those. I'm amazed. I don't know why. I can't really pinpoint it. Yeah, because it's not like you said. It's not like I think you're sitting there listening to. There's a band that was at all those eons ago before the plague hit us. At Rock USA was the one we went to. There was a band on one of the there was a band on one of the small stages that I had on my playlist of sample songs from that show that I was listening to leading up to us going to that concert. That would have been 2019.
Yeah,
they were called Annex. And it was like a female singer.
Oh, interesting.
Playing songs that sound a lot like Robbie's songs.
Did you get to see him?
No. It's just on this giant playlist I made.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And her singing sounded an awful lot like Robbie, only female. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But not that Robbie's singing is close to male. What I would deem to be like a male vibrato, let's say. But it's the same noise rock. I'll call it noise rock. It's like
there you go.
Like that sort of shit. You know?
Yeah. When you start diving down. That aspect of things, it's what makes those kind of things catchy is the syncopation. Maybe not necessarily the melodies and the things of that nature.
Yeah.
But it's like the syncopation and the pace at which.
Maybe that's why you don't like it, because none of the three songs we'll say on Live in Buffalo that Robbie sings are syncopated in that same way as like something like noise rock. I would call it.
Right.
He's singing kind of like how you would picture Johnny Resnick probably singing it, but it's just his tone of voice that is different.
I wonder if that's, say, part of the writing process, right?
Possibly.
If, let's speak in hypotheticals here. Not even hypotheticals. One of the songs that you wrote the lyrics, I sang them.
That's right. I wrote most of the lyrics in that last band.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So what you're saying is maybe Johnny wrote the lyrics.
Yeah, maybe Johnny wrote the lyrics, and here you can sing these.
Hey, Robbie, take us.
Or maybe it was more or less like which ones would you like to sing?
Hey,
however,
how you doing, champ? I picture Johnny putting his arm around Robbie, like, all right, buddy, here's your time to shine, okay? Mama just called.
Oh man.
And Johnny's over there.
Don't get me wrong.
Looking at the wall, like, keep going.
They are great. It would not be the same band without him, and arguably it would not be the same if he didn't sing those songs. I don't know that I would enjoy them anymore if John Resnick sang them.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
It'd be an interesting concept to see how that would pan out if that was the case.
Yeah,
but just not for me.
Sure. Okay.
So then, breezing over all of that, we have Black Balloon.
Did you know?
Did
you know that song was about a heroin addict?
I think I did.
I didn't know it until I really started, and when I was an adult. We'll say it wasn't recent, but it was really starting to listen to the lyrics of that.
Yeah. heroin's not something to fuck around with, kids.
What?
No, that it's. I won't go there. I won't go there. It's just a killer. But
I didn't know it was about that song was about it originally for some dumbass reason.
I can. I think I knew that. That doesn't surprise me, and it really shows how. It shows in the melancholy of the guitar parts and the vocals, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten a chance to see them live?
I have twice.
Twice?
Yeah,
That's
twice.
one more than me.
So I actually know my sister's going to be listening to this episode because I told her we were doing this album.
Mm-hmm.
She's not big into live albums, not in the sense of like she avidly avoids them, but I know she has actively told me, well, I like how they sound on the radio and that sort of thing. And then so sometimes I don't like how they do stuff live, meaning improvise, banter with the crowd, talk between songs, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
So I can see why if she's not too keen on that. But I took her to see them. I was 21 and she was probably 19 or something like that. So it was the first summer I was 21. And so I took her to the concert hall in Milwaukee, the Pabst. It was at the Pabst, yeah.
Nice.
And we were actually, this was kind of a fun story. We were actually up in the upper balcony, the third floor. And we had front row seats of the third balcony. So after the first couple songs, I was waving like a buffoon, like over the edge like this, just to see if any three of them at the time, I think they had their backup musicians too.
Yeah.
But the main three would notice, and Robbie did, and he started waving back. And then Johnny was precisely like, "Oh yeah," and then there's a whole nother floor up there, and whatever. How y'all doing? And
cool.
so we did. That was a moment to remember. My sister never forgot that. She always is excited about that.
Notice me.
Her husband got her for her birthday last year. She got her tickets to see them at Summerfest last fall.
That's
right. The day I was referring to earlier in this episode, where you and I were in Ohio for incarceration, but. He got her a cameo from Robbie, a cameo video from Robbie as well. And he was talking about it on the cameo. I sent it to you because he sent it to me going, "Hey, does this look good?" Or, "Hey, that's pretty cool, isn't it?" I'm
Sweet.
like, that's cool. That's cool. But I saw them, that first time, 2010. And then I saw them the next summer at Summerfest, which I'll talk a little bit about during my turn, but it was on a ground stage at Summerfest. It was the Miller Lite stage or something like that. And it was free, it was just walk up and watch them. And my dad liked some of their music too, so he actually came with us. It was me, my wife, my sister, and my dad. I don't think, maybe even my sister's significant other at the time, because that was a while ago now. That was a decade ago now. But they played like crazy good that night, like even better than the Pabst. It was like, great. I was questioning whether okay, well, the Pabst, it's like a theater.
Yeah.
This is like a music fest. Is this going to be a shit show?
Trump?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking Goo Goo. I've seen other bands in music theaters as such, like Pabst, Riverside, and all, where it's like they specifically are bands that seem to suit that venue, where it's sit down music, like America. I've seen it. Sit down music, not super fired up. No, they kicked some ass, took some names, threw a trumpet or two up someone's ass at Summerfest. I was impressed. And then my sister had sent me some videos from when you and I were in Ohio of her watching them that time too, and they sounded just as good, being 50-something now, last year, and playing like crazy. So it was impressive. But yeah, I've seen them twice.
Nice.
So yeah, they never have disappointed me.
I've only seen them once, and this was during... It was...
You were saying it's their heyday or something earlier.
Yeah, it was after Gutter Flower, and I think it was during or before Let Love In.
Okay.
It was during. I have a sticker. I bought stickers. I buy stickers when I go and see bands. And then I keep them for like 20 years before I put them on anything.
That's okay.
Yeah, so I saw them during the Let Love In era, which was fantastic because they still had the sax player playing on Broadway. The person I took with me, it's kind of funny story, going back to Black Balloon, right? They started playing the intro to Black Balloon, and all of these balloons fall from the ceiling, right? When I saw them, it was also at Summerfest, but they were headlining in the
Marcus Amphitheater?
Yeah.
Like the big stage?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, yeah, I guess that would have been
at the Marcus Amphitheater.
Early 2000s. That would have been pretty up there in their days, yeah.
And the person I took was allergic to latex.
Oh.
And I was so excited, and it was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, I grabbed a balloon, and I was like, yeah, here you go. Oh, man, that did not go over well.
Was this a hospital trip, or was it just a horrible infection?
Neither.
Ooh. Well, it's not like you rubbed it all over them.
No.
Come here, you.
No, that would have been terrible. But I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. Yep, that's a thing. But so
rough.
Looking back at it now, it's kind of funny. So then there's Dizzy, right? And Name.
Yeah.
Dizzy, I can never remember.
Oh, that it exists? One of those kind of songs? Yeah.
Right.
Even though it's part of the title of,
right.
of the classic album?
It's a great song, and I know it. It's just I never remember the title of the song. If I'm trying to recall it.
Yeah.
And then there's Name. And that was actually, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, it was written about a VJ.
Really?
Yeah.
Like he had like who
he
wrote?
was like pseudo. It was Resnick. He was pseudo seeing somebody and whatnot. And
wow.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that, but I'll touch on that with mine. Name was a big song when I was growing up.
Same here.
Like
right?
just in my life in general. Yeah.
There was a certain point in time that song really resonated with me, and it. Yeah, this was like early, either high school or like middle school.
Sure, yeah.
I remember a lot of truck driving trips up at the farm. I used to spend my summers up at the farm with my grandpa, and I'd go to work with him, come back, and what have you.
Yeah.
And the radio station, most of the time, was almost always country. I think he may have picked up that I wasn't really a fan
of country.
Like he put, he would put on like an alternative station that had, like in popular or in high rotation was like Name, The Way by Fastball.
Oh yeah.
And even at that time, Out of My Head by Fastball too. I learned how to play that then. So then we've got What a Scene was next.
Yeah.
Nope. I jumped a bunch. Where are we? We're at Name. Oh yeah, 'Cause You're Gone.
I'll kind of hit on this too with mine, but that's up there with one of the songs where I didn't know it existed until I listened to this album, and I'll dig a little deeper into that after our next jam. But like,
which album is that on?
I want to say Gutter Flower.
That sounds right.
No, it's not, and neither was Acoustic Number 3. By the way, I had it up here.
Oh, did you?
'Cause You're Gone. Let me just straight search it.
It's got to be Dizzy Up the Girl then.
Yeah, it's got to be. Because, no. I don't know. I don't know what that is. It's like a single that's showing up for me.
Oh, sure.
Oh, no, it was the one with the car wash. What the hell is that album called? It's really early on. It's really early on. It is, here, let me get to it.
One of the older ones.
Oh, it's really old. Superstar Car Wash. 1993.
Like 93, okay.
And on that is, 'Cause You're Gone. And I'm just trying to think of another known one. No, nothing. 'Cause You're Gone.
'Cause You're Gone.
That's the only one that I know. Everything else, no one listening to this, if they are, is going to know any of the shit on that album.
Right. So we've got 'Cause You're Gone. I thought that was a good song, especially now learning that it's one of the older ones.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
And they drug it out for a while, too.
They did. Sympathy was next. Sympathy is a great song. I love that song all day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I remember, so back in the days when I was just learning how to play guitar and my friend knew how to play better than I did, I was singing for him. That was a regular we'd do.
That was a regular thing.
Yeah, that was a thing we did.
Sure.
Once upon a time. Sympathy. Then we've got January Friend.
My January Friend.
And then next is Here's Gone.
Oh. I got some thoughts about that.
That is one of my favorite songs by this band.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought that was your actual favorite song by the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah, it would have to be. So it's like a three-way tie with Here Is Gone and Broadway and Long Way Down.
Long Way Down. I saw that on your notes too, and I know we've brought this up. I don't. That's my Dizzy. I don't remember that one exists half the time.
It was in the movie Twister.
I thought there was something in that, but I don't remember it exists. I don't know.
Yeah,
why.
it's on A Boy Named Goo.
Yeah, one of the classics, the older one, one of the real notable early ones.
Yeah.
That had name on it too.
Yep, that had name on it too.
I don't know why. I just never. Was it on the radio all that much either when like we were younger?
I can't remember that. I don't remember.
Name overshadowed.
I think I was in grade school when Twister came out.
Yeah, easy. I was in early grade school when Twister came out. So you've been middle grade school.
I'm sure they got like that's from what I recall, if memory serves me correctly. They had A Boy Named Goo. I'm in it now. I'm gonna look this up.
The Superstar Car Wash came before A Boy Named Goo because
that
had
90, yep, that was 93.
That's the oldest I think on Live in Buffalo, if I'm not wrong.
Oh no, I don't want to do that.
Wrong. I'm always fucking wrong.
And that won't let me expand. Superstar Car Wash was their 4th album, released in February.
Was that?
And
no, Boy Named Goo came after it. That was 95, Boy Named Goo. Mid-90s. And I was... Dizzy Up the Girl was 98. We were almost getting to the millennium at that point.
And this sounds... Okay, so... 'Cause You're Gone is on Superstar Car Wash. And then it notes here the song We Are the Normal, which sounds vaguely correct in terms of popularity of the songs on there. I don't remember what that sounds like, though.
Yeah.
So that was 93. A Boy Named Goo was 95. And let's see if that... you trash panda.
Bear with us, folks. We're just piecing together the entire discography of the Goo Goo Dolls. I have no idea.
The whole thing.
The whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah. So they've got Eyes Wide Open on A Boy Named Goo. I think that's on Live in Buffalo.
No.
No?
No. Not that one. I'm trying to...
Naked.
That's on.
That's on there.
Yep. I love that one.
Name and Long Way Down. Yeah, so they didn't play Long Way Down on this set. I really would have enjoyed probably what that would have produced, but by this point in their career, it may have been just something overlooked, like...
Right, yeah. Just like a breeze through.
Right. So, from there... So there's... What a Scene.
That was on Gutter Flower.
That was on Gutter Flower.
Yeah.
One of my favorites off of that album, too.
For sure. And you liked it on the live one?
I did like it on the live
one. Was there any favorites you had on the live one, or the favorites you have from them that were shit on the live album? I know it's a good live album overall, but let's be real here. Not every song is a banger live.
No. And that drags me back to the point of conversation that we had earlier, where the environment, the experience, the everything that was going on in the moment, right? So to put it in a personal perspective, to something that you might be able to relate to, when, say, you're going to expect something, you go to a show, starts to rain, and it could become like a fairly bad experience, right?
Right, yeah.
We've experienced something like this before in 2019.
We did. Except we didn't have to suffer through it. We just suffered through it in the sense of losing out on seeing a performer.
Yeah. And so there's portions of that, or there's a line there, right?
Yeah.
And on one side you've got positive, on the other side you got negative, right?
Right, yeah.
And I think everything in the live performance was as it should be, right? Given the circumstance, like none of this came into play in my thought process, like, oh man, like this really sucks. I wish it didn't rain because this performance would have been so much better. Like it all just connects and ties together with itself to make it what it is.
Sure.
You know, and without that, it just wouldn't have the same charm it would.
So you think the rain kind of just made it one, I don't want to say made it one long track, but made it one long track in terms of quality? Like
Yes.
the whole attitude of the show.
The whole experience.
I guess that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to think about it, I guess, right? Like,
because the whole thing like just unloads, right? Starts right out the gate, and
they're there to play.
Right.
Like they don't rush. They
No.
don't, you know.
No, they do a great job, and then the rain hits, and then like they reassure everybody that they're coming right back. They say, sit tight, we're going to get through, you know.
That's right. That was towards the end. It was like they're
towards
telling
the
us
end.
we got to stop.
Yeah, they're telling us we got to stop, but hold on tight. We'll be right back, you know, and I think that's just really cool. Now, granted, our situation was a little bit different, which is why that turned into a negative for myself.
Right.
In that situation. But without say, had the rain not intervened in this show like it was, it would, I don't know that I would enjoy it as much as I do.
Yeah, maybe it would be too calm. Maybe it wouldn't have I can sense a level of aggression on that show, even for a soft, we'll call it acoustic rock band, like I was saying before.
Yeah.
It's
easy core.
Easy core. I don't think it would have that level of aggression, maybe that I'm perceiving from it, right? From the rain. But yeah, I was just curious. Like maybe that is a good point about live albums or well done consecutive live albums. We'll say where it's one show. Not we recorded 4 live albums and picked the best songs and made a live album out of it, which many bands do.
Yep.
When we talk about, like, speaking of this era, when we talk about the Gin Blossoms one, they do that kind of. There's even a Yellow Card one that is not on streaming. It's something I own from eons ago that was live at the Palms in Las Vegas. Same night, but they fade out and in and fade out and in over and over at the ends of each song, right? Which as a kid, that fucking irritated me because I was like, I want a live album like I'm at the concert. I don't want what? What are you laughing at?
The noise my throat just made on the microphone. I don't know if you can hear that.
That's what makes this fucking podcast excellent. Nobody. By the way, folks, the robot fart I was talking about earlier, I don't think you might have heard it now that we, like, in hindsight, we're kind of messing with our sound before we performed the last song for you because it might not have been on the vocal track. But it was, anyways. The
guitar track wasn't armed. Only we could hear it.
Yeah, only we could hear this disgusting robot rip of an ass.
Jesus.
And I thought for sure... Maybe you can hear it from the headphones, but at any rate, no live album. Like maybe that's the reason too. It's like they didn't stop and fade out and fade in and do a lot of like studio-based mixing and mastering on this. It was raining and they recorded it, and obviously you know that you mix and master anything you record. We mix and master this, but it wasn't like we got to fix this.
Just hearing you say that makes me cringe.
What's
like
that?
The fading in and fading out.
Yeah,
that was cool when I could burn CDs and do that on my computer. But
yeah, it's fucking annoying on a live album.
Bugs the living tar out of me.
There's some bands where I'm like, if you guys do record one, please, for the love of fuck, don't do it this way. For everything holy, don't do it this way. But maybe that's the point of, like, the good thing about live albums is well done ones, consecutive nonstop start of the show, finish of the show ones, is that you get that overall tone. It's kind of like, think about this, you know, bands record in studios all the time at different times of the day, they take breaks, they go do this, they go do that, the next day they come in and record these parts, you know, it's all piecemealed together. Maybe this is why I also like live albums, is studio ones can be piecemealed together, often not in one take, right? Probably never. I mean, maybe in the 60s, 70s, we're talking pre-digital.
You're talking reel to reel.
Yeah, we're talking the tape will wear out if we don't do it this way, kind of thing.
Yes.
Not, we can hit record and stop as many fucking times as we want, right? Live albums, to me, are maybe a throwback to that, where it's like, okay,
you got one
chance to do this.
Shot.
Let's see what you got. You know what I mean? And I think I say this
Mom's
a lot.
Spaghetti.
It's ready.
Yeah.
There's vomit on Mom's Spaghetti. You got to look up that.
Yeah. So, where did we leave off now?
Kind of towards the end when they were taking the break, or the brief moment where they were like, "We gotta." What a scene! Yeah.
Right. Acoustic number 3. That's actually top 3 on this album for me.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you've got the interaction, and we were talking earlier about banter and what have you.
Yeah.
And I really like that they captured a lot of that too within
Oh, yeah,
it. And it wasn't just strictly the songs and here you go, digest this as it comes. It's like they made an event out of this.
Yeah.
You got to hear what happened. I'm sure they probably could have edited all that out, and they chose not to. And I think that's a big part of what makes this so.
Oh wait, you mean the guy that's in the front row during one of the middle tracks, and it's like rock and roll, and he sustains that shit for like longer than any note Johnny Resnick might sustain, and it's just screaming, guttural screaming rock and roll about only 3 or 4 times.
Only.
But holy shit, you can hear it. He's front and center, probably
know it.
soaked in the rain and screaming at the top of his lungs, rock and roll.
Right. And rightly so. The guy was excited, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to be there, like, it was probably raining, right? They were still playing.
At that point, it had to be.
So there's acoustic number 3, right?
Yeah.
I believe was the point where Resnick comes out and starts to like try to play his guitar, and he's like, acoustic number 3 he does on his own.
And then he brings Robbie back out for the next one.
And then he brings everybody else back out for the next one. And there's just something about that song at one point. I knew how to play it at one point.
Sure, yeah.
Have since forgotten. But it was one of those in regular rotation early on.
Yeah.
We've got 2 Days in February.
That's the one where they bring everyone back out.
Yep, they
or
bring
at least
everyone
Robbie,
back out.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
Because you hear him say, "Come on, get Robbie back out here."
Yep.
Sorry, I made it sound like he's taking a shit at that point for some reason. And then you kind of round it off with the ending, isn't it?
Yeah,
like Broadway.
After 2 Days in February, you've got Broadway. You've got the fucking saxophone.
Ugh.
Oh man,
Give me those horns.
coming prime out of my cold dead fingers. And then you've got Iris, which obviously is
a classic.
And arguably the reason that all of this happened, right? So in doing some of the digging in this album and some of their other stuff, I remember vividly that not just before Gutter Flower, but also, I should preface that before Dizzy Up the Girl, he from 95 is when A Boy Named Goo came out, and then, if I remember correctly, John Resnick had like insane writer's block.
Okay.
Right, and I don't remember what got him out of it, but once he was out of it, like,
boom, album,
just wrecked,
firing out albums like it's a Nerf gun of discs.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know if he continues to suffer from writer's block, but
right.
It arguably produced, a lot of great songs, I should say.
Yeah.
And so they rounded off with Iris, and then you've got a live version of the cover song that launched the entire album.
Yeah.
Give a little bit, right?
I have stuff to say about that in a little bit.
So
I can give a little bit of my thoughts on that song.
So looking back at the notes, right? The album is fun, right? The whole thing, all the way through. If you know the band and what have you,
right?
You know all the songs. The songs are fun. And it really captures the energy that they have while playing live. And I think there's a lot to do, or a lot of that comes from the situation, the environment, the rain, and also the energy they had.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I can agree with you on all that. So.
And I think this concludes my thoughts.
Wow. Yeah, you had some in-depth stuff about them. I mean, and like I know you've been a fan for since we were kids,
Right.
basically. Yeah. But yeah, this album, man, it's up there in my favorites. I'm looking very much so forward to diving into my notes. But what do you say we play some music? Let me just get my French horn out. No, what do you say we do a jam? And then I'm going to dive right into maybe some rebuttals of what you said. But we're going to throw some.
Are you going to apologize to Robbie on air?
I will apologize to Robbie on air. On stream, on YouTube's. Not that he absolutely fucking cares at all. But
I hope somebody sends this to him.
But in the end, in the event,
please come join us.
If he is listening, yeah, he's gonna fucking join us just to give me an earful of how much of a jack off I am for trying to copy his singing.
I'm here for it.
But let's throw down another jam on Fuck It, We'll Do It Live.
Just don't fucking touch nothing.
Fuck. All right. Welcome.
Don't breathe.
Wait, don't nobody breathe right now. All right, welcome back, all you boomer juggalos.
Jeez, right out the gate with
all
that
you
one.
boomer juggalos listening, listen up. Brad's about to spit some knowledge about Live in Buffalo by the Goo Goo Dolls. No, I love this album. Absolutely love it. I was kind of jotting down that I have also practiced drums to it hundreds of times. I mean, front to back all the time. I've even gone as far as throw in drums on Sympathy and the acoustic, just because there's a rhythm to them, and I'm like, oh, could I do like kind of like rims and things that like clickety clacks, I've done that even just to practice my own, just as practice, not as performance. But I love this album. Honestly, all for the same reasons you do, Zach. That it's a start to finish record. But I'm going to start right off the bat looking at the dragon's titties, we'll say. Not that that's a saying in any world whatsoever.
No.
But unpopular opinion that I had jotted down on my own notes when researching this album. I hate Robbie's voice. I actually do. It's fucking annoying. It's absolutely fucking annoying. But that's why I love the songs, because I hate his voice. Because they don't sound anything like the radio Goo Goo Dolls, we'll say. So because they don't sound like the radio Goo Goo Dolls, doesn't matter that I hate his voice. It matters that it's different to me, I guess, is what I mean.
Yeah.
And what's even weirder about that for me is much like the fact that I can't believe you don't like his stuff just based on knowing some of the stuff music you do like. I also don't know why I like his songs, because I can't stand that genre, as I was kind of saying about Annex, I think was the band with the noise rock stuff. I literally can't stand the sloppy punk genre, let's say, where it's just like fast playing, shouting. I didn't grow up during that era. I didn't grow up in 1980s Europe or London or whatever. I just don't get into it. It's
do you
not
like the Ramones?
No, actually I don't.
Okay.
Unpopular opinion as well. I don't. I can't say I don't hate them, but I can't say I would ever go out of my way to listen to them.
Sure.
I mean, it's not horrible music.
Yeah.
But same with probably Rancid. Not into them. My friends were really into them in high school, and I liked. But they were
Rob and our former bass player were like heavy into those guys.
Into Rancid. Yeah.
Good stuff.
But generally, the time that my friends were getting into them was when they came out that "If I Fall Back Down," that era, right? Didn't hate that song. Don't hate those bands. Don't hate Robbie, but I don't like his voice. But that makes me like his songs. I think it's just because it's just so different. Your
method is confusing to me.
It is. Just, hear me out. You got a sea lion, and then you got a bull terrier. Now, what the fuck does that have to do with brewing your own beer?
Right.
Everything. That's.
I'm gonna spit this fucking water everywhere.
Yeah. Hey, is that your water? But anyways, I don't generally. But on the I wouldn't probably go out of my way to listen to those on the recordings. But on the live album, the one I like the most is Tucked Away. I don't have a reason why. I don't really like Smash. That one doesn't have any rhythmic catchiness to it, we'll say to me. And I just don't like how it just kind of seems like arbitrary shit. And that one, I believe, also right before he goes into Tucked Away, seems to end out of nowhere. It's almost like they fucked up the ending on that one a little bit.
So what you're saying is his shitty voice is what attracts you to those songs?
In a way, yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and it's not something I'm going to listen to on repeat ever. But I don't skip them like you do. That's the way to put it. I don't skip them like you do, but I'm not going to listen to them like I cherry pick the occasional live favorite I have on that giant live favorites playlist I have on Spotify. I don't have those on that live favorites playlist because I don't listen to them for fun. I just don't skip them because they don't really bug me that much. But yeah, Tucked Away is the only one I do like. I would say I kind of like, and it's because it's got some rhythm to it. And the ending's kind of fun because I think Johnny jumps back in when they're doing Tucked Away. Yeah. It's kind of, like a cheery, whatever, that sort of thing. January Friend, not super big into either. It's about equal to Smash. Yeah. And I just like the liveness of it. The screw this rain.
The only significance to me that song has is that on the album it follows Broadway.
Oh, it follows it, or is it before? You mean it before?
On Dizzy Up the Girl. I
Oh
believe.
yeah, not
I
on
believe
this.
it goes Broadway and then.
Okay, and then it dives into January Friend. Might be. That's my unpopular opinion about that. I had been bursting at the seams to talk about that during your part, but it was just because I don't know how to explain it. Like my feelings about that song, because it's not those songs by Robbie. It's not that I like them. It's not that I seek them out, but it's if they were gone off the album, I'd be sad. Now knowing that they exist, if they said, "Oh, you know what? You can change anything you want," just like some of those episodes we're going to do where we make up a live album for a band, Power Man 5000, that doesn't have a Breaking Benjamin as a something in my throat live album. If someone was like,
a trumpet, is there a trumpet stuck in your throat?
But like at the end of each episode we do where we say what would you change about what would you add in, delete from.
Oh sure.
I'm going to say right away before we even get to that point tonight. I wouldn't delete these off him, even though I don't like his voice really. I want him to stay. They're a characteristic part of this album.
Right. I wouldn't change it either. There's something about the songs that belong there.
Yeah. Right.
Right. They're just not for me.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Absolutely. It's almost like a sampler of Robbie. Is the way I look at him now, listening to this from like a scientific perspective, I guess, for the podcast.
Dissect Robbie?
Yeah, it's like they're like, we had to get Robbie in on here. Come on, let's bring Robbie back.
Sure.
So yeah, for sure. But let me just kind of look through this. I mean, I'll make my way through it like you did, but Big Machine, I love that song. And actually, funny enough, I discovered that song when I took my sister to the concert back in 2010.
Fun. That's a good way to experience that song.
I've listened to Gutter Flower, but I don't think it resonated with me until I saw it live. Then I was like, that's a song. That's a song by them that's good. Big Machine, definitely.
Not to interrupt you, but part of the reason I was into them during that era was I was waiting for Gutter Flower to come out. It had been, I believe it took a little while because it was 98 or so when Disney came out. And then you've got 2003 with Gutter Flower, and when they announced they were working on new material, yada, 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 and then their first single, they had a video for Here Is Gone, which had a huge impact on me.
Yeah. And, Big Machine, it was like, there's many, and maybe I'm sure you will as well, bring this up amongst many episodes. We talk about other things and other albums, but there's a certain majesty around discovering a song at a concert that I didn't really like before or that I didn't know existed, right? Like, for instance, diverting off of the easy core, is that what they're calling this, into the more hardcore. When you and I watched Slipknot last fall, I Know All Out Life existed. I didn't like it until I saw it live. I didn't like it the way I like it now.
Oh, really?
Until I saw it live. Yeah, I liked it. It was all right. I think it was like,
no way.
I like Unsainted. I like Nero Forte. I like, but that was like a single that they released. It wasn't on, We Are Not Your Kind.
Yeah, it was a predecessor to the album itself, right?
And I remember watching them in 2019. Again, that 100 years ago before the pandemic, watching them on Jimmy Kimmel play that song, and I was like, it's Iowa level. I'm like, I'm sure I'll find my place for it. Then the world distracted me for about a year and a half.
You don't say.
And then,
what happened?
Something
happened. Tell me.
And then we saw them play that live, and I was like, holy shit! The firework, the pyrotechnics,
everything,
the energy, clown hitting the flaming baseball bat against the beer keg, that whole thing.
Hell to the yes.
Yeah, it changed my perspective. That's how I kind of felt about Big Machine. But that one I didn't know existed at that point. I was 21, maybe. I mean, I was a big fan of all their mainstream stuff from growing up around it.
Right.
But I mean, I heard it on Gutter Flower. I perused over it, right? So yeah, this I already knew what it was at this point of this album, right? But I love that song now. After seeing it live, I thought they rocked. Which kind of, before I go into more of the songs, I was going to bring this up during yours when you asked me how many times I've seen them, and I saw them at the one with my sister, and then the Summerfest one I'd mentioned. Oh, they seemed more aggressive. Yes, this band is quite. If you've never seen them, in my opinion, in that time around 2011, 2012, when I saw them a few times, or those couple times in that stretch. They seem to be more aggressive than I would have pictured them being live. And those were the first times I was seeing them live, where you got Robbie playing slap bass really fucking hard. You know what I mean? Like, he's headbanging and he's going fucking ape shit on the bass. And I'm like, this is this is the top 40s mom rock channel. You know, like, I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is intense. Like, he's playing intense. And Johnny is not by any means playing soft either. You know, he's there. I remember playing in a band where we were going to potentially cover a song by them. And I remember the guitar player in that band of mine said, we can't do those songs. The tuning is really weird. He plays in a really fucking weird tuning, apparently.
So his tunings are, for a good majority of the songs on Dizzy, were in open tunings. So you've got standard tuning, which is your E, A, D, G, B, E on a 6-string guitar, right?
Yeah.
So you take a chord progression, or not even a chord progression. You take a chord, right? Say it's tuned to E standard, right?
Right, yeah.
If you wanted to tune it to open E, you would take that chord shape and tighten those strings up so that when you strum the guitar, it sounds like an E chord without your fingers there.
Okay.
Right, so some of those songs are in open G and I think open C, and what you're doing is you're altering the strings to fit that shape of a chord without having to play it. So then he takes his fingerings and creates the melodies off of things like that.
That's way over my head and way outside my pay grade. Can I do that with drums? I feel like everything with guitar, I'm like, can I hit this?
Can I hit this?
I can't hit it with a stick. I don't fucking know what I'm doing.
Isn't that an Offspring song? Anyway.
Yeah, I know you want to hit that. On their live EP, I hear it all the time.
Oh, nice.
That'll be a day. But yeah, they play quite heavy live in terms of their performance. Yeah, and you know, you go see a live band, I mean, anything is going to be amplified at a concert. But I was impressed with Robbie in that regard too. Like, he had the energy. It was like, I mean, this dude is going for it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like an old man saying that. Boy, they are really going for it.
Really having it.
Yeah, he was really going for it. So I have mad respect for them live, no matter if you. And I think I challenge everyone to have that same mad respect for seeing them live, seeing them before you judge them, kind of thing. I don't know about now. Maybe they're taming down a bit. Like as they get a little older, I'm sure he's not going to be headbanging nearly as much. Maybe I don't know. Like you were saying, if you maintain certain things, I mean, maybe we'll see how long he can go. But now, kind of going through the set list, you know, the for me, like the cliche ones like Slide and Black Balloon and Name, right? Love those songs. Loved them on the live album. I thought Slide I like better live than I do recorded by a long stretch. And I think it's because I can hear Robbie singing the backups towards the end. Again, that weird juxtaposition of Johnny Resnick with the dreamboat voice, we'll call it, for 90s middle-aged housewives. I know I'm going to go to hell for all this. I'll save you a seat. I'll be baking pies without an oven in a few years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But he's, Robbie in the background has got that kind of slide like tone.
Yep.
And I hear it on the Live in Buffalo album. I don't hear it on the recordings. And so something about those little touches just makes it exciting for me, especially that song. But what I had kind of jotted down was songs that I actually discovered from this live album were like Naked, 'Cause You're Gone, Think About Me. Like, I, again, knew they existed, probably heard them on the studio recordings. I had those albums. But I discovered them in a whole new way from this live album. And to me, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe you agree, maybe not, but live albums also, to me, I could be totally fine with those, that concept of album replacing greatest hits albums. Because to me, that's how they kind of are. Yeah. They're like a greatest hits in the moment. And I discover some of their better songs from those in those moments. You know what I mean? Like Think About Me and again, 'Cause You're Gone is a big one I discovered from that. 'Cause I was 4 years old maybe when that song came out, Right. So just like talking about my dad's bands and him taking me and me connecting with them live now, not when they were 20, but when they're 50 or something, that's one where it's like it was out way around the time I was born. And so I discovered it this way, from a concert or from the live recording of the concert. So I think live albums are like a greatest hits that could replace greatest hits, especially going into the streaming world now, because that's live albums to me are the only way you keep people interested in albums sometimes these days, other than vinyl, as that's coming back and all that. And artists like Adele lobbying against Spotify, letting you be able to just pick one song or whatever it was. It was like letting you rearrange the songs or something. It was something like that she wanted albums to stay albums because she maintained that you create them in this order for a reason. And I think that live albums maintain that in a way because, especially one like this, it's the whole show.
Yeah.
So why would you, if you were going into it for the first time, I like Slide. Why? Nobody's going to, I mean, I'll be honest, even as a collector, no one's going to go pick Slide live compared to, I like the song Slide. Going to go listen to it on Dizzy Up the Girl. I'm not going to go find the live version and be like, let's just listen to it's rare that would happen if it does.
Yes.
Compared to going to find the actual recording.
I'd have to agree.
And I'll even base that on a call out to my sister. She wouldn't go find the live version just because she doesn't want to. She wants the original. So live albums to me are like greatest hits that do allow me to discover songs that I wouldn't ordinarily probably listen to twice because it's part of the show to me. It's part of this sanctity of live albums that I love. So
see, for me, looking at Live in Buffalo, right? As you're saying, somebody would seek out the original recording over probably a live version.
Yeah.
And I think, and just my own opinion and the way I look at it and how it, the caliber of songs that are on that album, I would easily take Live in Buffalo probably over both Dizzy Up the Girl and Gutter Flower.
Wow. That's
again, like this
awesome.
live album it's just got a charm to it in all of the events, all of the music.
Yeah.
And slap greatest hits on this thing, like you were saying, and ship it out the door because this is what it is, right?
Yeah,
it was essentially a greatest hits live before they started releasing greatest hits albums, I think, in 2016.
Well, right, yeah, exactly. They didn't even have one, right?
No.
And now, despite what maybe people think about when they hear me talking on this about my obsession with this kind of genre of albums, not all live albums function that great. Not all live albums include everything I wanted to hear. Not all live albums, like even look at the Foo Fighters one we were talking about last episode. Like we had a lot of changes for that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's not to say the Foo Fighters are bad. That's not to say that performance was bad. That's not to say any of that. But it's not necessarily near the caliber of greatest hits like this.
Yes.
And then we'll probably do another one where I'm like, whatever. It was good, but not that great, right? So those songs like Naked, Dizzy, 'Cause You're Gone, those sorts of things, right? I discovered or rediscovered from this in its own way. And now I would seek them out. Like, I like the live version of it, so I want to hear the live version of it,
yes.
right? That happens to me a lot. But, yeah, you got Robbie's songs. They're good. They got to stay there. One song. So, Name's a big favorite of mine because, like I was saying, I had about 11 some odd cousins on my mom's side that all grew up around me, near me, like siblings, like literally lived in nearly the same yard as me.
Yeah.
Because their aunts and uncles all lived right next to my parents. And that song was quite popular. Two of my cousins, their sisters, they were obsessed. One of them was obsessed with Johnny Resnick, like loved him, big crush on him, all that stuff. So she kind of exposed me to a lot of Goo Goo Dolls. That song Name kind of supersedes just those days with my cousins. It supersedes it in a way where it's like my dad would throw the radio on, just like you were talking about your grandpa would throw the radio on, and that happened to be the hit at the time. And I can almost, if they ever say, like, I've seen a lot of these memes where it's like, I can smell this picture, and stuff. I could, weird way, smell that song because I'm picturing the leather in my dad's Chevy S10.
Sure.
And picking up, I don't know, like lunch or something from Taco Bell or whatever, and riding around with him before he went to work in the afternoon. My mom came home at night, but I can almost smell that song. You know what I mean? If I really tried hard enough, and I love that song. This is where it gets kind of weird for me, though. This is more unpopular opinion. Get ready for it.
Ooh.
And I don't know if I actually
already sitting.
I wrote that down for one of these songs, but I would lump Name in there as well. Live, how they sing it, or not how they play it, because they play it just like, the notes can't be changed much in that regard.
Right.
But the singing, the tone, how he sings the song, right, starts shifting a little bit at this point in the show, because for me, he's singing Name a little bit different than the recording.
Yeah.
On the live one. Doesn't bother me that much. Where it does bother me is Here Is Gone. That song
Really?
seems like it was. When I was kind of doing my research on this album, all I noted was I'm like, I don't hate it, but it doesn't sound good to me on this live album at all. Yeah, and I don't know if it's because they seem to shorten it. And I know it's because of the rain, because What a Scene came after it.
Yeah.
And they shortened that to my favor, actually. But Here Is Gone seemed like the only one where I could tell shit was going south on stage because of the rain, where it was they were ripping through that one pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they didn't drag it out. And he was kind of singing it. And just the way he sings it live, I don't know. This isn't a band where I think like, oh, he's like the Bon Jovis we were talking, Bon Jovi we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Or the Bon Jovis of the world, where it's like they can't sing it anymore.
John Bovine Joni.
Yeah. What was the tattoo that was like, "It's is my life"? John Bovey.
John Bovey.
It was like ''S is my life. It's is my life. Not like he can't sing it anymore. It's not like he's changing it live because he can't sing. Right. I don't know if he's just trying something new on that, but he did it that same way when I saw him live with my sister both times and my wife the other time and whatnot. I don't know why he sings it so differently live, but I don't like it. I love that song like you do. I don't like it the way he did it on Live in Buffalo. I don't know if it was just the rain, if it what it was, but however, What a Scene, like I was saying, that was fixed for me because the na-nas go way too goddamn long on Gutter Flower. I finished that song on Gutter Flower. I started. It's exciting. I'm like, oh God, yeah. I'm like headbanging to the Goo Goo Dolls. And then by the end of it, I'm like, congratulations, I'm 100 years old. And I know from looking it up on YouTube to share it on socials, just when I was in a mood for that song one day, that the rain fucked that ending of that song up.
You could see it.
Big time.
Okay.
You actually, you've never seen the videos, have you?
Nope.
So it is fucking torrentially downpouring by the end of that song. It's raining hard at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
But you can tell they're speeding up a little bit in the song.
Before we get electrocuted.
That is something most people would hate. I love it. I love the character of that part.
Yes.
Because you can tell he's not going to not finish this song.
Yep.
He's not going to let them say, okay, you got to fucking stop. It's like he's getting it in before it's done. And that's the song with the banter at the end of it saying, like, okay, they're telling us we got to stop. You guys not leaving, right? And all that stuff. I like that it shortened it. I don't know how you feel. That is one of my favorite songs by the Goo Goo Dolls. But I always thought the na-nas, I mean, it goes on for like a minute and a half at the end. Yeah, and it doesn't fade out. It just stops eventually. Like, it's just, dung, it's over.
Right.
It's way too much. Way too much.
He did faded out in that minute.
They did one na-na round, and then the round where he's saying, innocence looks good on you, and blah, blah, blah. One more na-na after that, and it was over. And I'm like, this is what it should be.
Yeah.
That's all it needed to be. Yeah, because too much of that over and over, that I'm, like we learned from the Foo Fighters, I'm not into repetition. Not that much. Not into too much. Like Skin and Bones. That's why I didn't like that song.
Yes. Because
it was just repeating it over and over. And I'm like, well, I think it sounds like a filler at that point, and this song was too good to be a filler, to have a filler at the end. I'm not the artist though. I mean, Johnny, now I'm on Johnny Resnick's hit list too.
Yeah. Just pissing everyone off.
Robbie and Johnny are like, I'm going to kill this fucking kid. But love that song and love how it kind of did that. So I encourage you to look up the video.
I will.
Maybe even after we're done here, I'm going to pull it up for you. But
Sweet.
Yeah, that was a favorite Goo Goo Dolls song, even more of a favorite hearing it on this live album. Straight up, probably unpopular opinion a little bit with that. But I think that going towards the end of this one now, like acoustic number 3 in 2 days in February, like how you like, I can respect it from not be. I feel like guitar players can probably, like you were saying, you knew it was acoustic number 3. You knew how to play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think guitar players can really respect that because of that, because it's an acoustic guitar song. Is it like that on the album? There's no drums, bass, nothing, right? I don't think I've ever heard it other than live, actually.
I think that's the way it is.
But either here nor there, I think that, I can respect it even not being a guitar player. And it's just as integral as the songs Robbie sings on this to me, in terms of I'll listen to it and be like, this is awesome. Just because it's like I can almost hear and sense the rain at that point. Like it's just pooling down. They had to kick him off stage, but he's again not stopping. There's still like we're gonna play until we're finished, man. You know, like it's
getting it in.
God, it's so good. And your horns in Broadway.
Yes,
that is a great song. I love that one. One of the other acoustic ones I know we kind of talked about a little bit was Sympathy. You like that one, right? You said, yeah. Did you like that one right when it came out, or was that did it have to grow?
No,
on
I
you?
Liked that one right away when it came out.
It didn't have to grow on you, anything like that.
No, that one was good. It was classic Goo Goo Dolls when I came across it. It's like, this is, and that was on Gutter Flower, and that one got. If I was skipping around at all, I wouldn't skip that one.
Yeah, I loved that one from the get-go, and I was kind of in a weird spot in my life back in the day. I was a teenager. You know, teenage years suck. You know, and I think we could all agree to that. Even if you were born tall, dark, and handsome, fucking teenage years were horrible. Yeah. Like in one way or another, in terms of your emotions or your looks, you had one or the other. What door do you want to pick of bullshit kind of thing? I think.
You didn't get to pick; it just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. In my case, it was a lot of just coming into my own of being shy, because I'm not. I wouldn't call myself shy anymore. But when I was a teenager, I didn't really want to be recognized for anything in those years. For the years that song came out, and I think something about it. I know there's other meanings to songs that we all relate to in our own ways, but something about that song. The lyrics being about sympathy, it was kind of like, I don't know, I had a shitty life at that point, shitty teenage life, we'll say, and I looked at it like I don't need sympathy. Mm-hmm. Like, so if I got it, it was like, wow, this is unusual. Somebody actually gives a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was why it still hits me in the feels even to this day when I hear it. It was, just, and how they played it live was beautiful. Sounded to me just like the recording almost, and I don't always like that live. I like to hear some not as much here is gone variation, but somewhere in the happy medium. I'm a very tough person to please, just so the Goo Goo Dolls know. They'll be the only ones that listen to this. We'll have 0 views except for those two. Somehow they'll get it, or 0 streams. But
as fate would have it,
that song hit the feels, still does, because now it just reminds me of those days, and it. As a teenage kid, it kind of gave me it was just like I can be sad and it's okay.
Yeah. And
I don't think I wouldn't say that's not a thing anymore in music now. I don't know what it's like to be a teenager during social media, right? And all this bullshit in the world. But I could probably venture a guess that they're experiencing the same thing I did in their own way, listening to certain songs like Sympathy that resonate with them in their own way. It'd be foolish for me to think that they're all not, that they're all just happy and everything is like, what did Corey Taylor say in his book? Everyone's drinking the same milkshakes, and we live in a world where bullets only chastise people.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was.
Rainbows
and we'll have world peace or whatever. Yeah. I know that's not it. It's probably a fucking war zone nowadays being on social media and a teenager, right? But that song, some people maybe listening to this don't get, and I'm sure you can relate. When songs like that came out, it's like you either found them on Napster or you bought the CD, right? Yes. Or you downloaded them illegally, it destroyed your computer, and you bought the CD, or you bought the CD.
Why is my computer entering the Matrix?
Oh, I know. I fucking destroyed the home computer so many times. I had a illegal burning operation going on too, because my friends couldn't do it. They would get grounded. I didn't get grounded because I renamed the Napster logo as Internet. I think I said on the, and my mom didn't know the goddamn difference. Yes. Now she does. She probably knew all along.
Sure.
But we didn't have the ability to kind of stay connected with our friends overnight. After school, it's like, no, you leave school and it's like whatever terms you left on with whoever, girlfriend. You could call their home phone and then get
girlfriends.
I didn't. Nah, maybe one. And maybe I guess if you count we held hands at a party because I was the best. I got a story about that actually. Kind of around the same time Sympathy came out, but long story short, she was definitely. We had a cliquey high school. She was a Palms girl, and I was you don't hang out with that kid. He looks like he's going to kill you. You know what I mean? That's it. I looked the part, right? And I think she had an inkling of, I'm going to hang out with this kid because it's dangerous kind of thing. And that's all I gotta say about it. Yeah.
Oh,
And that
Thrill
was
seeker.
Yeah, around that age, that was the only girlfriend. And we did, we hung out together for about a couple weeks, just hanging out, like we were official, like we were not. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of ended, and we just didn't talk.
Sure.
But we stayed good friends. Actually, we're still friends. We still talk here and there. But yeah, that was interesting. That was around the time that song came out, and I think that a lot of kids maybe now don't realize, like, with era like the Goo Goo Dolls and listening to albums like this live. And hearing that power of him even singing that song in the rain or something, it's like we didn't have social media to stay connected, like I was saying. And
Right.
what got me through some of those nights of I came home from a shit day and I feel like no one likes me is listening to music in my room and then going to bed to it too. And I'd stay up till probably midnight watching, what was the show, Insomniac with Dave Attell. Yeah.
Nice.
If you've never heard of that, look that up. You gotta dust off the cobwebs and shoo away all the fucking shit that'll run off of that gem.
I was I was way into Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah, or like Adult Swim
that
level
era,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I'd stay up listening to music because I knew that it kind of, I hate to sound emo about this, but it eased the pain if I had a shitty day. And then it kind of reminded me there was a day after. There was a day that would
Right.
follow. You know what I mean? And I was like, I could possibly mend, right? And the song like Sympathy always hit me because, not to go on this depressing diatribe, but it always hit me because of the lyrics. Because it was like you were saying before, I wrote all the lyrics in the bands we've been in together. And I don't sing for shit, but I love writing. I do it professionally. I do it. And so lyrics outside of drums have always resonated with me. And I think that one just kind of showed me, exactly what I was looking for a lot of times, which is somebody relates to me. Somebody, like that sort of thing. So I love that song. I love it live. It's phenomenal. But kind of concluding on, just to finish off my end, Iris, fan favorite of my sister's. And like you were saying, that's a pretty profound staple. I highly encourage listeners and you look up the video from that DVD.
Okay.
Yep. It is fucking phenomenal. And I mean, you don't even have to. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to force this on you. This is going to get forced on you like a trumpet and band class. Not necessarily.
We have come full circle, folks. This is it.
But the horns and Broadway, yeah, definitely.
What are you doing with that oboe?
Hey, what are you doing down here? Hey, put that down.
Anyway.
To conclude before we move to the finale of what would we change about this, right? Did you Give a Little Bit, the cover song?
Oh.
I looked at you very interrogative.
You did.
I was like,
you did.
Tell me, son. Did you Give a Little Bit?
I think my expression gave all of that away.
Your extended silence tells me
Man.
what I need to know as well.
What do I say? It's not a bad song. I don't think they did poorly. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it because it's not. Oh, they did it very well, both live and recorded. Not my thing.
They did it like the Goo Goo Dolls.
They did.
It's
like
the
the Goo Goo
nicest
Dolls.
thing I can say.
And that one gets skipped.
Yeah, I'm happy it's at the end. I don't know if you know this, but Supertramp sang it. That's the original band that sang it. For those of you who don't know who they are, you're way too fucking young. I'm way too fucking young to know Supertramp. They were the OG singers of it. I didn't like that song to begin with. So let's preface it that way. I don't want to onslaught the Goo Goo Dolls to end this awesome episode, but I didn't like that song already. I don't think we needed a cover of it. And even less so, I don't think we needed Goo Goo Dolls to play that cover. That, to me, is the equivalent of Sound of Silence for Disturbed. Except, which I know is going to crush some people. Because I didn't hate that song, that cover either, when it came out. I disliked the Goo Goo Dolls cover of this much more than Disturbed's. I will say that, of Sound of Silence. But Disturbed, I feel like, has done that as of recent to come out of. They did that on coming out of a hiatus of 5 years or 4 years or something like that. Goo Goo Dolls didn't need to do a cover. they stand alone on a lot of stuff, and they've been around for a while. And they've, like you said earlier in this episode, cemented their name in pop culture history pretty solidly.
Yeah.
They did a cover because I think they probably liked the song or wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It sounds, the nicest thing I can say is it sounds like the Goo Goo Dolls playing a cover of Supertramp.
Which is good. That's good for them.
Good for them.
I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who loved it.
I'm sure. And believe it or not, before I just gut this fucking thing open from the breastbone down, my cousin, the one that got me into Goo Goo Dolls, kind of come full circle. That was her wedding song from her first marriage. Before, unfortunately, long story, whatever. But it was her wedding song. They did a ballroom dance to it, actually. They did a ballroom dance to that song. It was beautiful, actually. It was phenomenal how that happened. And it was because, her now ex-husband, he was a ballroom and dance instructor.
Interesting.
At some point in his life. He had a lot of random jobs, I think, leading to his career in IT, believe it or not. But, ballroom dance. But neither here nor there. That's not why I don't like this song. It's not like I have a vendetta against my cousin's ex or something. Like, he was a nice guy. They didn't work out. It was no big deal. They're still cordial. But I just I can't stand pandering. Okay, I just can't stand fucking pandering. Yep. And I feel like I'm going to say this a lot of times. I feel like cover songs. Yeah. I know I brought up to you that the next episode I want to do is of the Woodstock 99 recordings.
Yes.
And I'm excited about that. There's a song on that I will keep to a secret for right now that also
was pandering.
Is fucking pandering by the ultimate pandering band I think we could ever think of. Okay, in that era in early 2000s, late 90s.
I'm excited to find out what that is.
Yeah. But I fucking hate pandering, and I feel like that's what that was. It was like we need a hit to really, really cement ourselves in the top 40s forever. And I feel like some bands do cover songs for that reason. It's like it's already a proven model.
Yeah.
And I feel like Goo Goo Dolls, actually, this is going to end on a good note in that regard. I feel like the Goo Goo Dolls are a proven model in them, so I like them that much. And their songs are proven models. People cover their songs.
Yes.
I think Newfound Glory did a cover of their song, of Iris. I know a couple bands that did a cover of Iris. You know what I mean?
Sleeping with Sirens covered Iris also in acoustic fashion.
I think I heard that, yeah. Newfound Glory did a punk, kind of slow, but pop punk version of it. I mean, they've cemented their place. They didn't need this. This was like fucking filler. This was like, and even less so to end it. It almost seemed like, I kind of wonder, I'm not maybe nerdy enough, but I kind of wonder, did they play this at the end? And in that moment, did they decide to record it for the next album? Or record it in the studio to put on
the album?
Because that's how it starts.
Very well may have.
I don't like that it starts and finishes with the same fucking song. One being the studio recording and then ends it with them playing it live. But I think that might be what happened. They probably picked a song to kind of just close, let's fucking do this because it's exciting, give a little bit of love and yada yada and all that. And then they went into the studio and recorded it. And it doesn't do anything for me. I guess it wasn't that much of a slaying. Maybe I kind of like just poked them in the chest and I was like,
lanced it a little bit.
I was like, take that! Barely drew any blood and was just like, you deserve that. And I walked away
Pierced
crying.
Its ear.
Yeah. Then I maybe I didn't kill them. I just beat the shit out of them and then like sat down next to them and cried.
Jeez. Yeah.
While they were sitting there crying bloody, I was crying too. But you're right. It doesn't do it for me. And I even like Robbie's vocals though, I won't skip it if I'm in for the long haul of I'm working or doing something. I have the album on and let it play all the way through. I'll let it play all the way through. Like not starting. I'll start with Big Machine, not give a little bit studio version. Right. But I don't shut it off after Iris necessarily. I just wish they had. All right. So to kind of conclude here, what would you change about this album, Zach, if anything at all? As I pull open the actual set list, what would you change about this?
Oh, what would I change? I have two answers. I wouldn't change anything.
Okay.
Right? That's the overall overview. I think it's perfect in its imperfection.
Sure, yeah.
Right? That's what makes it the gem it is. But also, I would have included Long Way Down.
Oh yeah,
would have loved to have seen that or heard that.
Sure.
On this album.
Sure, yeah.
Right. because going back to having compared, for those not living in the physical presence with us, you would not have known that we took a trip to go and get some food and have come back to conclude this episode, and we listened to the other live album by the Goo Goo Dolls from 2018, I do believe.
Oh yeah.
With a long way down on it, and it just lacks that that edge, right?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That the recording has.
Yeah.
So
I think that Long Way Down would probably be more edgy on Live in Buffalo because of
agreed
the situation on Live in Buffalo. I think the only, honest to God, the only thing I would change would be I'd get rid of the live cut of Give a Little Bit. And I mean, whether they played it or not, because at the end of Iris, they're kind of doing some pretty grandiose, you guys are the best crowd ever.
Oh, sure.
Ever. And it's like, you could just easily fade it out after that's done. Because there's.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I'd get rid of that song.
There's some. I'm fucking over that song. There is some dead space there before they kind of come back out for it as an encore.
Sure.
And I think we could do without it as an encore. So that might be it, though. That might be all. I think that's honestly all I was going to say about changing this, because everything else is, you put it a good way, perfect in its imperfection. Whether it's Robbie's.
Yep.
Whether it's Robbie's singing, let's call that, or, you know, the fact that they had to kind of race through Here Is Gone or any of that. Like, I wouldn't change any of that. I just because I'm not fancying Here Is Gone on the live one does not mean I would change it or get rid of it or say, oh, why don't they just re-record it all better? No, because then that takes out these consecutive live albums where it's one after the other, whole show, one take. I think that ruins the majesty of it if it's all of a sudden like, well, we had to cut this song out of it because it was shitty. We'll do it on the next night. It's like, no. If you cut it, you cut it. There is no redoing it. Yeah,
because albums that piecemeal together live tracks across different shows, like those can be good, but it has to be done right? And you are definitely not capturing the interaction between the band and the crowd at that point, or any of the banter or things of that nature, because it's contextual at that point, right? Because in this case, this happens to be the same show. They're talking to the same crowd. So
right.
That might be part of the reason all of that's left in, versus another album where the songs are all taken across a tour.
Right. Yeah.
And then they, to your liking, fade in and out.
That makes sense. Absolutely. And there will be albums that I actually really enjoy, live ones that are basically, you know, like from this show, from that show, and the actual album lists them as that. Like, oh, this one was recorded here, this one was recorded there, this one was recorded in a studio but live. And I think that it becomes kind of a showcase of just the band at that point. Whereas,
it really does. A band that does that is Linkin Park.
Yes,
they did that really
live in Texas.
Not just live in Texas. They had, I remember way back when, and I was looking at new music to pick up, and I, as I started to get into music, I was almost borderline obsessed with Linkin Park and their story.
Okay, sure.
Right? And so every time I'd go and pick up new music, even though I might not be looking for Linkin Park stuff, like their packages always kind of caught my eye. Right? There was like, I think that their tour was called Road to Revolution, and they released one like every year or like every other year or something. It was, and similar to other fan clubs or like crews or however you want to spin that perspective, they would include, say, like a limited edition T-shirt with your purchase of that year's Road to Revolution album, right?
Yeah.
So,
some bands do it pretty well. I know I Prevail. That's one I want to talk about in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Their live, I would even venture a guess to call it EP, even though it's got plenty over 10 songs on it.
Yeah.
But those were notably recorded in different locations. And kind of, in a way, it was mixed and mastered really, really well. But
was that their last one?
That was their, it would have been probably, because I don't think they released anything super new since then. It was Post-Traumatic, or whatever it was called.
The name of the album, yeah.
I actually bought it, because I'm pretty sure I bought it at the start of 2021, so last year, because I had noticed that it had come out of somewhere, and I was like, ooh, this looks good, and I love it, but it is one of those.
Yeah. Didn't we see them at Rock USA?
We did, yeah. And I do like them. They do not have a bassist. They have just guitarists.
They just have guitarists.
Just guitarists, 2 singers.
On purpose?
As far as I know, yeah.
They looking to fill that bass spot?
Well, I Prevail, hit us up. On that note, yeah. So this has been our Goo Goo Dolls Live in Buffalo episode of Fuck It, We'll Do It Live. I hope you enjoyed it. This is definitely an album to enjoy. Please go check it out. And
yeah, before we take off, there is a way, if for some reason you were intrigued enough to contact us, we do have an Instagram page, and we have a Google email account linked to that page as well. So if you want to give us your thoughts, feedback, and or share things, that is your avenues of doing so. And just to loop back around to some of the other things that we talked about, there's plenty of information out there regarding, bands, songs, and music. In general, the internet is a wasteland of information, right? So
that's how I've discovered like half the live albums in my collection.
Yes. So, I mean, in terms of if you enjoy what you heard today and or the last few episodes that we've done, I highly recommend checking out some of the other podcasts I'd mentioned previously. And also to circle back to a more serious note, I know we joked about it earlier, but drugs are no joke.
No, they're not.
Drugs are bad. And I think that's it. That's all I got. Drugs are bad. Okay. Don't.
I'm sorry. You're just like, if all you can see, he's just there's like, so drugs are bad, and and it was like this really like zoned out look, and he's like, I think that's it.
Yep, I think that's all I got rattling around up there.
You don't need any more advice in life, kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this was once again, Fuck It, We'll Do It Live, and stick around for the next episode in which we will have more debauchery to discuss.
Yes, please enjoy. Stay away from that.
Stay away from them. Stay away from them drugs, okay?
Stay away from that truck stop speed.
Yeah, that's right. Johnny Resnick was talking about truck stop speed. Yeah. That will be firmly burnt in my head. But all right, well, this was Brad and Zach on Fuck It, We'll Do It Live. Hope you enjoyed it.
Until next time, kids.
Later.
To say you're not supposed to be that way. Did they push you out? Did they throw you away? They touch me now and I don't care. When you take me, I'm not there. Almost human.